What if some of the most powerful decisions in European history were not made only inside royal palaces? What if behind kings, wars, and the rise of empires, there were families and financial networks whose greatest weapon was not an army, but money? For centuries, Europe was ruled by kings who wore crowns, commanded soldiers, and built enormous kingdoms. But crowns were expensive. Armies needed weapons, ships needed supplies, cities needed rebuilding, and whenever rulers needed enormous amounts of money, they often turned to people who understood something many kings did not: the power of finance. This is the story of the bankers who became some of the most influential figures in European history, and the people who helped fund kingdoms, shaped economic decisions, and changed the balance of power across an entire continent. But their story is not as simple as legends often suggest. They were not hidden rulers sitting above every king. They were something more complicated. They were financiers who built networks so powerful that even monarchs depended on them. And in a world where money could determine the outcome of wars and the survival of empires, financial influence became a force that could rival royal authority. The story begins in medieval Europe, a time when banking was still developing. For centuries, European economies relied mostly on local trade, precious metals, and personal agreements. But as cities grew and international commerce expanded, merchants needed better ways to move money across borders. Carrying large amounts of gold and silver across dangerous roads was risky and inefficient. This created an opportunity. A new class of financial experts began to emerge. They created systems for transferring wealth, managing loans, and supporting international trade. Slowly, banking became more than simple money exchange. It became a tool that connected kingdoms. One of the earliest banking centers appeared in Italian cities such as Florence, Venice, and Genoa. These cities became wealthy because of trade. Their merchants traveled across Europe and the Mediterranean, creating networks that stretched far beyond their own borders. Among the most famous banking families to rise from this world were the Medici of Florence. The Medici family began as merchants and bankers, but over time their influence expanded far beyond finance. They became major supporters of art, science, and culture during the Renaissance. Their wealth helped transform Florence into one of the most important cultural centers in history. But their greatest achievement was understanding a simple idea: money could create influence. The Medici did not rule Florence like traditional kings. Instead, they used relationships, alliances, and financial power to shape political decisions. Their banking connections reached across Europe, allowing them to work with powerful rulers and important institutions. Several members of the family eventually became leaders of Florence, and others reached the highest levels of the Catholic Church. Their rise showed something that would become increasingly important in European history. A person did not always need a crown to influence the world. Sometimes a ledger could be just as powerful as a sword. But the story of European banking power reached an even larger scale centuries later. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Europe entered an age of enormous change. Empires expanded, wars reshaped borders, industrialization transformed economies, and governments needed more money than ever before. This was the era when international banking families built networks that crossed national boundaries. Among the most famous was the Rothschild banking family. Beginning in the late 18th century, Mayer Amschel Rothschild established a financial business in Frankfurt, Germany. He later expanded the family network by sending his sons to major European cities including London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt. Each branch operated independently while remaining connected. At a time when communication was slow and governments struggled to transfer information quickly, this network provided something incredibly valuable: speed, the ability to move financial information and capital across Europe faster than many governments could. The Rothschilds became involved in financing governments, supporting businesses, and managing large financial transactions. During the Napoleonic era, European governments needed enormous resources to fund their campaigns. Financial institutions played a significant role in helping governments raise money. After Napoleon's defeat, Europe entered a new political era, and banking networks continued to grow. Their influence became a symbol of the changing world. Power was no longer controlled only by royal families. Industrialists, merchants, and financiers were becoming major players. But with great influence came controversy. Whenever a small group becomes extremely wealthy and connected, people naturally begin asking questions. How much power do they really have? Do financial networks influence political decisions? Can money shape history? These questions have existed for centuries. Some stories about powerful bankers grew into myths and exaggerated claims. The reality was more complex. Bankers could influence events because governments depended on financing, but they also operated within a world of politics, competition, laws, and changing markets. They were powerful because they understood finance better than many rulers. But they were not all powerful. History shows that money can open doors, create opportunities, and influence decisions. But it cannot completely control the unpredictable forces of human ambition, conflict, and change. The relationship between bankers and governments became especially important during major historical moments. When nations needed to rebuild after wars, develop industries, or expand infrastructure, financial institutions often provided the resources. Railways were built, factories expanded, international trade grew. The modern economy began taking shape. Behind many of these changes were financial systems that most ordinary people never saw. While kings appeared on coins and monuments, bankers often worked behind the scenes. Their names were less visible. Their influence was often quieter, but their decisions could affect millions. This is why the history of banking is so fascinating. It reveals a different kind of power. The power of information, the power of networks, the power of resources. Throughout history, rulers who ignored finance often struggled. Rulers who understood finance often survived longer. Because armies can win battles, but economies decide how long a nation can continue fighting. The story of Europe's bankers is not a story about secret rulers controlling the world. It is a story about how financial knowledge became one of the most important forces in human history. A reminder that power does not always wear a crown. Sometimes it sits behind a desk. Sometimes it appears as numbers written on paper. And sometimes, the people who shape history are not the ones standing on the battlefield. They are the ones who make the battlefield possible. From medieval merchants to Renaissance, banking families and international financial networks, money has always played a role in shaping civilizations. The next time you study the rise and fall of an empire, remember this. Behind every great power, there is often a complicated system of resources, trade and finance that helps keep it alive. History is not only written by kings and warriors, it is also written by the people who understand the forces that move the world. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden financial stories of history, subscribe to Talvik Stories. Here we uncover forgotten events, powerful figures, and the untold stories that shape the world we live in today. Because history is full of mysteries, and the greatest stories are often the ones hiding beneath the surface.